Hello, fellas and felleritas. So, I am here to tell you right now, you can mark this on your calendars. Vitor Belfort will be the UFC champion by the end of 2024. That's right, you heard it here first. On December 31st, USADA and the UFC are no longer working together. USADA will no longer be proving fighters aren't cheating before getting into that octagon. Oh, I don't like it. I don't have any problem with people that take steroids. I don't. I really don't. It doesn't help your chin. It helps you get stronger. It helps you be better at all. Until I started learning about what steroids actually do. Like, in my head, you start taking TRT and HGH and you just get, you hulk out. It's not the way they work. They help you recover. So I can train harder, I can train longer, and then recover and then do the same thing tomorrow. That's what that's where the potency of steroids comes from. Is it helps me train how I want to train at as close to 100% as I can get. Now, there are varying types of steroids out there. EPOs, like while it's in you, it'll help your conditioning forever. HGH will make you get bigger and jump a weight class or two. There are different types that do different things. But for the most part, you take steroids today so you can train harder tomorrow and the day after. You take your TRT and you're this or you're that or whatever, and it helps you train. It gives you the unfair advantage. Now, if there was no downside to it, I would say, you know what? Everyone take it. It's fine. We'll just be the biggest, baddest dudes. We'll all be the Sammy Sosas and Mark McGuire's of MMA. Except there is a downside. If you take them for too long, you get dependent on them. If ever you stop taking them, that's no good. Then, especially if you look in the fighting realm, if you get bigger and better than ever before, you're also punching a guy in the head. Your brain isn't going to be injected with the steroids to make it stronger. Anyways, USADA, it helped so much this last decade. It helped so much with the cleaning up of the sport, with making it a more mainstream sport. It's no longer a human cockfight. It was no longer people just juicing and going in there and fighting. It was more of a martial art. It was more of proving who was the better fighter, not who the better chemist was or who hires the better chemist. And now that's gone. And it sounds like it's Conor McGregor's fault. It sounds like Conor wants to take his juices or took his juices and USADA was... And I do believe Conor is clean. And he's going to be tested for the next 2 months. And I think he's going to be clean with everything. I believe he's clean now. We all know he's all said he is not clean. He said he took it because he needed to heal. I respect the hell out of him. He got out of the UFC testing pool. He wasn't going to compete while doing it. Respect that. That's fantastic. He's rich enough. He probably could have taken the right concoction of whatever. And healed and had nobody test for it. He didn't. Took himself out of competition, did everything legal. But now, because USADA's rules are you need 6 months of clean testing and you need 2 positive, or from the time of your second negative test number, and he wasn't going to pass that. So they said, UFC said, all right, done. It's gone. USADA's no more. Now, I am sure there's more to it. I understand USADA is a business. USADA has a bottom line they need to make, and they're just putting that out there saying, yeah, it's Conor McGregor's fault, because that's going to get the headlines. That's what more people are going to see and hear and talk about and repeat over and over again. I don't believe that's the whole case. That's just what we're hearing. But it's crazy to think Conor has that much power. I know Conor is the biggest MMA star to have ever been. At least he was. He probably still is. I'm still excited for whoever he fights, whether it's Nate Diaz a third time or Michael Chandler, if he's going to go up and fight Khamzat this upcoming Saturday. Conor McGregor is one of the biggest stars the UFC has ever produced and will ever produce. It's hard to get bigger than him. So let me tell you a little bit about my experience with USADA. For the most part, they were incredibly easy to work with. For the most part, they were friendly. They were very, very happy to be dealing with me. They never did anything shady with me. They were always upfront. They always did anything they could to help me. They've always been fighters know where they're going to be every minute of every day, because we're always going one gym to home to one gym to home. For the most part, we always know where we're going to be. When I first moved to Tennessee about 2 years ago, I did not know where I was going to be. I didn't have a gym. I had kind of work here and there. I was always somewhere I shouldn't have been. And I got tagged like 2 or 3 times real quick because I didn't tell him where I was. Like, oh God, I think I was within one strike away from being put in some sort of suspension. And I was nervous about it. It's like, oh God, I've done it for 10 years. I've never made a mistake. And now, I mean, in like 3 months of just moving here, because I never knew where I was going to be, I was striking out all the time. I was a substitute teacher. I still am a substitute teacher. I didn't know what school I was going to be at next. I didn't know when I was going to be there, and I would forget to update. So then I had a problem. But all my time, in my prime years in the UFC, I always knew where I was going to be. I always knew what I was going to be doing. I always knew everything that I was going to be doing leading up to the fight. I knew you could have asked me, where are you going to be on a Tuesday 3 years from now? I could have told you. They were easy to work with. I don't know how so many fighters have so many problems with USADA, because it really was simple. If you just update your app. And like when I was getting caught out here for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, I wanted to be mad at, USADA. And my wife said, Sam, just tell them where you're going to be. It's an app. You have the app on your phone. Just anytime you go somewhere, plug in, that's where you're going to be. And say, fine, but I'm still mad at them. USADA was incredibly easy to work with. It was incredibly hard to cheat. Like, I wouldn't know how to cheat USADA because the random testing, they could show up at any time. If you're going to take TRT, I believe you just take shots every week or every 2 weeks or something. And as soon as you're USADA'd, maybe I could take shots right away. Except I've been USADA'd today and then USADA'd again 2 days later to try and catch me. So they make it hard for you to cheat. They make it very uncomfortable for you to cheat. I would imagine, like, I never cheated, and I was always nervous they were going to show up and, oh God. I never took supplements anymore. Like, I wouldn't take creatine. I wouldn't take anything, because the supplement industry, it just constantly coats their, supplements with stuff that's not supposed to be in there to try and get you hooked on it. That's a whole nother podcast. And because USADA was there, I was terrified to take anything like that. I took nothing that wasn't given to me by a third-party tested, product manufacturer. Most of the time, it was I only took it if the UFC PI gave it to me. That was it. And so, if it was hard for me to find a way to cheat, which I never did, never really tried, but I was just terrified of them, it would be so hard for anyone else to. I know John Jones had that moment where he apparently slept under the cage for 48 hours until the USADA guys left. But outside of doing that, it would be hard to cheat USADA. They just show up. Every now and then, they would get to where I was going before me. And then all my teammates and coach, hey, Sam, USADA's here. You got to get here real quick. You there. Don't worry, I'm coming. I'll be there in a few minutes. There have been a few times where I was at one gym instead of the other gym. Something switched last minute out in California. My USADA guy would call and say, hey, where you at? Or I would be at one gym. He wasn't expecting to see me. He showed up for somebody else, and I was there, and he said, I'll test you too. They were very nice. They were very easy to work with. And I hate to think of the UFC without them. I hate to think of what people are going to do. Guaranteed, if they're not testing for anything after December 31st, people will be taking something January 1st. Before that bell ticks to 12, people are going to be putting stuff in their bodies to give themselves the advantage. The reason you don't do it, the reason you need USADA, is because there is the toll on your health for taking the steroids. Years from now, it will play a factor. Some people don't want to play that factor. So then they have to compete now natural while everyone else is juiced to the gills. It's not fair. It makes the sport more unsafe. I do think that with USADA leaving the UFC like this, years from now, fighters will then sue the UFC for getting rid of USADA. That's gonna happen. You can mark my words on this one. So I don't like that USADA is going away. I think they're a very useful company. I think they've done a good job for the sport, and I think they've really helped elevate the professionalism of the sport. All that being said, there are other organizations that test, but the UFC stopped using USADA because they tested too well, which means whoever they use next will not test as well. We'll give Conor McGregor a few more breaks or a few more warnings. And I won't be able to trust it. I've grown to truly like USADA, even the minor inconvenience it caused for me. I enjoyed knowing that who I was fighting was as clean as I was. Probably. Anyways, tell me in the comments, what do you guys think? You think I'm wet? You think USADA was a waste of time and money? You think fighters are finally getting freedom from it? Or you think it's just going to be a license for people to cheat? I think it's going to give people a license to cheat. I'm not a fan of them leaving. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. And, oh yeah, by the way, Usman versus Khamzat. Oh, it's an incredible fight. Have a good one, guys.